The transport shuttle's engines hummed as David stared at the containment pod beside him. Inside, suspended in a gel-like substance, floated a figure no larger than his forearm. Elsa, if that crude translation of her species designation was accurate, observed him through the transparent material with eyes that held more intelligence than any human's. "Congratulations, Sergeant Marlowe," Commander Chen had said 3 hours ago, his voice dripping with the kind of bureaucratic enthusiasm that made David's skin crawl. "Your exemplary service in the Kepler 442 conflict has earned you this. Companion, the architects have deemed it an appropriate reward." Reward, the word tasted like copper in David's mouth. He'd spent 18 months fighting the Void Collective in the outer colonies, watching friends evaporate under plasma fire, making decisions that would haunt him until his neurons stopped firing. And now, the mysterious architects, those reality-bending entities who'd pulled humanity into their cosmic chess game, had decided his prize was a sentient being. The shuttle descended through Earth's atmosphere, and David watched Elsa's miniature form shift in the gel. Her species, the Veridae, existed at a different scale entirely. Their homeworld operated under physics humanity was still struggling to comprehend, where space itself folded differently, allowing consciousness to persist in bodies that seemed impossibly delicate. The integration officer had briefed him mechanically. The Veridae volunteered for this program. They seek to understand larger-scale civilizations. Standard care requires a controlled environment, temperature between 1822 degrees Celsius, standard atmosphere, and cognitive engagement for minimum 2 hours daily. Volunteered, another word that didn't sit right. David's apartment in New Seattle felt smaller with the containment pod taking up half his living space. The military had installed it while he was in transit, a sleek cylinder filled with microarchitecture designed for someone else's size. There were structures inside that might have been furniture, platforms that could have been rooms, all rendered in materials that shifted color with the ambient light. He sat on his couch, staring at the pod. Elsa stood on one of the platforms, wearing something that resembled clothing but moved like liquid mercury. She was watching him too. The communication interface blinked, a neural translator that would convert her thoughts to audible speech and vice versa. David hesitated, then activated it. "You don't want me here." Her voice was clear, carrying an accent his brain couldn't quite place, the translator's best approximation of alien linguistics. David ran a hand through his hair. "It's not about want. This whole situation is dehumanizing, except I'm not human, so perhaps that's not the right word." There was something sharp in her tone, not anger exactly, more like the cold assessment of a fellow soldier who'd seen too much. "I was going to say, ethically complicated." Elsa moved to the edge of her platform, her tiny hands gripping what might have been a railing. "The architects don't understand morality as you do. They operate on exchange principles that predate your sun. I chose this because refusal meant my entire planet's exclusion from the galactic network. 50 billion Veridae would have remained isolated. So yes, David Marlowe, I volunteered, just as you volunteered to fight their war." The comparison hit like a kinetic round. David had enlisted because the alternative was watching the Void Collective consume colony after colony, moving ever closer to Earth. Choice, but not really. "What do you want me to do?" he asked finally. "What do you want to do?" David stood, packing. "I want to send you home. I want none of this to have happened. He stopped. "But I can't undo it. The architects don't accept returns. The briefing was clear about that." "Then perhaps we should stop thinking of this as a reward program and start thinking of it as 2 soldiers adjusting to civilian life." Elsa sat down on her platform, the motion surprisingly human. "Tell me about Kepler 442. "Why?" "Because you have trauma written in every microscopic tension of your body, and I have 16 doctoral equivalents in xenopsychology. We're stuck together. We might as well make it bearable. Something in David's chest loosened. He sat back down. It was a ice moon. The Void Collective had converted it into a processing station, breaking down matter to feed their expansion. We were supposed to sabotage it from within. But something went wrong. Everything went wrong. They'd integrated the station's AI with captured human neural patterns. It knew us, anticipated us. The memories came faster now, words spilling out. My squad leader, Martinez, the AI used his daughter's voice. He hesitated for 2 seconds. That's all it took. Elsa listened as David talked, really talked, for the first time since returning. She asked questions that cut through to the core of things, observations that could only come from someone who'd studied consciousness itself as a discipline. Hours passed. The Seattle lights outside shifted from amber to deep blue. The architects think they're rewarding you, Elsa said eventually. They don't understand that what you needed was processing time, community, purpose. They don't understand that I needed autonomy and respect. We're both casualties of their alien logic. So what do we do? Elsa stood, her miniature form somehow projecting absolute determination. We survive. We adapt. And maybe, eventually, we find a way to make this situation something we chose, rather than something that happened to us. David nodded slowly. The integration officer said you need 2 hours of cognitive engagement daily. I'm a scientist and a philosopher. You're a tactician and a warrior. I propose we pool our knowledge. The architects may have created this situation, but they can't control what we do with it. Research. Into them, into the Void Collective, into the physics that bind this galaxy together. Elsa's eyes gleamed. If we're going to be bound by their rules, we should at least understand what those rules are, and where they might break. For the first time in months, David felt something other than numbness or guilt. It wasn't hope exactly, more like purpose. Partners then. Partners, Elsa confirmed, though I reserve the right to complain about the accommodations. David almost smiled. Fair enough, I'll complain about the bureaucracy. Outside, New Seattle hummed with the sounds of a species still adjusting to their place in a galaxy far stranger and more dangerous than they'd imagined. Inside, 2 soldiers from different worlds began the slow process of building something neither the architects nor fate had intended. Not a reward, not a punishment. Just survival, rendered in an unexpected key.